Welcome to Anything and Everything About Education. I am Samantha Schneider. I will be your host tonight, and I am glad that you are here and listening and wanting to learn about a theorist. So we've been working on this series, and this week it is about Kohlberg's theory. So this is what we've been doing. We've been gone over for a couple of weeks some other theorists, and today is about Kohlberg. So we're going to talk about his biography, his theories and beliefs in education. Then we're going to talk about some ideas that you can include in your classroom and ways to help your students. And I hope that's why you're here, because you want to learn about Kohlberg and you want some ideas that help your classroom. So let's just get right into it. Kohlberg was born October 25th, 1927. He then graduated from Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts in 1945. After serving in the U.S. Merchant Marine, he worked on a ship that had been hired by the military organization to smuggle Jewish war refugees. Returning to the U.S. in 1948, he enrolled at the University of Chicago, where he completed a BA in psychology in just 1 year. He then got his PhD in psychology in 1958. He then had some teaching positions at various institutions before ending up at Harvard University in 1968. This is where Kohlberg became interested in Piaget work on the moral development of children. This is what helped him come up with his theory in wanting to help students and educators know about students. So he interviewed 72 lower and middle class white boys presenting with a moral dilemma, and it would be whether it would be acceptable for a poor man to sell medicine for his dying wife. And then the responses became the base of his 6-stage theory of moral development. He then died on January 17th, 1987. So just a little background about Kohlberg. You might have known that, maybe you haven't. Hopefully it was something new you never knew about. If you did know it, awesome. So we're just going to go into his theory and his beliefs and why his beliefs in education. So Kohlberg's theory focused on thinking process that occurs when one decides whether a behavior is right or wrong. This is on how one decides to respond to a moral dilemma, not what one decides or what one actually does. His theory was only focused on boys, not girls, which is kind of funny because I feel like sometimes we have boys in the classroom can act more out than girls, but I am a teacher, and within that, I have had girls who do act out. So I feel like this theory relates to both girls and boys. There is 6 stages within the 3 levels of his theory. Level 1 is pre-conventional level. Stage 1 within that level is punishment and obedience orientation, which is from ages 0 to 9. This behavior is determined by consequences. The individual will obey in order to avoid punishment. We then have stage 2, which is instrumental purpose orientation. The behavior is determined again by consequences. The individual focuses on receiving awards or satisfying their own personal needs. Then we go into level 2, which is conventional level. This is like early childhood to adulthood. And stage 3 is good boy / nice girl orientation. This is when behavior is determined by social approval. That student individual wants to maintain or win the affection, the approval of their peers, their others. They want to be known for the good person. In stage 4, which is law and order, the social rules and laws determine the behavior. So within the classroom, within whoever they're working with, there's like the society, the social rules that they are supposed to follow. That's when that determines the behavior. Moral decision making becomes more consideration of close ties to others, and the individual believes that rules or laws maintain social order that is worth maintaining. Then we get into his last level, which is level 3, pre-conventional or principle. This is where it's in some adults, and it can be rare. And I'll get into that. So stage 5 is social contract orientation, which is individual rights determine the behavior. The individual starts to think about different values, opinions, and beliefs of others. Then we get to stage 6, which is universal ethical principle orientation. This is the highest stage of his functioning, and he claims that some individuals never really reach this level. This is when the individual thinks about different values, opinions, beliefs of other people, and the reasoning involves taking the perspective of every person or group that could be affected by the decision of what they decide to do. Kohlberg, well, it was all of his 6 um, stages that he has in his theory, and how just working on whether the behavior is right or wrong when that one person, individual, student decides if the behavior is going to be right or wrong. Not what one decides or one actually does, it's just if the behavior is right or wrong. So with that, Holberg wanted to help teachers be able to understand their students' behaviors. This would help their relationships and be able to teach them at the best possible level. So with all these stages, this really helps you think about, why is your student behaving like this? What could you do? What can you do to support them in the classroom? And what you can do to help them think about the right and wrong decisions. So we'll get into some ideas for classroom, but also with this theory, there was actually multiple measurement tools that have been made to measure history within the students or individuals. There was interviews, there was assessments, there's dilemmas. So there is some ideas out there that you can use, but I have thought of some ideas that you can use in your classroom that seem more fitting for a classroom setting. So some ideas for your classroom. When thinking about adding Kohlberg's theory into your classroom, think about how you want your students to act towards you in their classrooms. How should your students come into the classroom in the morning? How should that behavior be? Thinking how for them knowing what is the right behavior they should be doing that morning, what's the wrong behavior. So some ideas that some teachers have implemented. I've done this also in my classroom. You can, if you're teaching younger students, you can make the list of classroom rules. The list could help with social interactions, how to treat others, what a consequence would look like. With little kids, it is easier for the teacher just to make the list so they understand it. You can explain it, go over it the first week of school, work it throughout the first couple months and everything. That way they know how you want them to act in the classroom, how they should work with others, how they should treat their materials and all of that. If you are teaching older students, you could have the class come up with the classroom rules together. You and this class could then decide, what are our rules this year? What do we want each person to be acting? How do we want our classrooms to react to us? How do we want them to talk to other people? How do we want them to be in the classroom? It's just however you want. This will help them have that involvement. The students feel like they are a part of it. They feel like they have a voice in their own classroom rules. They feel like they are the ones coming up with it. Some other ways you could do is set up an award system for students to work towards a goal to receive positive reinforcement relationship. With his theory and his state, all of 6 of his stages, you were really like getting deeper into what the student's behavior is, and that also helps you get in a relationship with them, and that's a really an important thing in a class. So you could come up with a classroom store. There's a classroom money system that you can do where students can earn money, which also then helps them work with the money and how to spend it. So there's also a couple benefits of doing a money system. But like with this store, you can also have that with the money system. But kids can then so they come up with their rules. They can also come up with what they want their store to be in the store. They earn those positive reinforcements, and they get to then buy, purchase, spend off the store something that they were looking forward to. And it could be anything. Another good thing is also team building activities to promote teamwork and just showing students how to work together. That's also just another good way of working with the behavior, right or wrong, and showing students how they need to be able to work with one another, because a lot of the time, sometimes students don't really want to work with certain people, and they have got to realize it's a life thing, and that you kind of have to work with anybody you want, anybody you have to, even if you don't like them. So those were just some good ideas to include into your classroom. I hope it helps you. I hope it gives you an idea that you can then put into your classroom, and I hope it helps students, because that's all we want to do as teachers. We want our students to be successful, to be the best that they can and that they are working really hard. So just the goal is to help students understand what is right and wrong. As teachers, we are there to help guide the students become the best that they can be. So I hope you had an awesome time listening. I hope you learned something. If you ever have questions, you can always message me in my email. You guys know where it's at on my website. I would like to honor the sites that I got all my information about Kohlberg. So some great, about 3 websites. Very Well Mind was one that was about Kohlberg's Theory of Moral Development by Kendra Sherry, and it was an awesome website, so it's a very good one to go to. Also went to Brit Canada, which is Lawrence Kohlberg's by Marie Dory, and Lawrence Kohlberg's Stage of Moral Development by Cheryl E. Sanders. So very great 3 websites that I got all my site information from. So if you need to look at those, look them up. You can also do your own reading and get some more deep dive into it. But I hope you guys had a great time listening. Enjoy your day.